Hey, what's good, guys? It's Clutch City and Timmy here, back with another video. And for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Houston Texans. And I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts on why I believe we have a very good future. As of right now, obviously, we look pretty bad. Like, we look like we're going to pretty much, I'm not say suck, but we don't have, like, any true superstar players like how we did before. Before, we had DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, whether you liked him or not. I guess you could sort of classify him as a superstar. Tyrann Mathieu. There's different players like that. And now, who do we really have? Like, we have a bunch of good players, average players, but we don't have that one player that's like a superstar player. I'm just going to be talking about like why I believe that's going to change. I believe we're going to turn over this franchise, and we're going to turn into a franchise that's going to be very successful in the future. First off, that's going to start with General Manager Nick Caserio. Just based off of this offseason so far from the draft, I mean, he really didn't have too much to work within the draft, but he still did some pretty good things that I like in the draft. He drafted a quarterback that could potentially be traded for even more picks. So, I mean, that was kind of a gamble pick. I'm sure they're hoping it could potentially be a franchise quarterback for us, but that's probably not going to happen. Maybe he could at least be a decent backup. Maybe we could trade him similar to what the Patriots did with Jimmy Garoppolo. Trade him for like a second-round pick or even 2 third-round picks. Just like be a future investment for us. And then we drafted Nico Collins, who can be a future, I'm not going to say superstar wide receiver, but he could be a future wide receiver number 1, high-end wide receiver number 2 type of guy. So he got us a wide receiver who could be for the future. He got us a tight end in Brevin Jordan, who was my tight end number 2 and a lot of people's tight end number 2 after Kyle Pitts, of course. So we got him in the 5th round. He dropped like crazy. So we got a starting tight end. We got a starting receiver. We got a depth linebacker. Not the best pick, not the worst pick. It was okay. We got in my opinion, who's going to be a solid backup D tackle with Roy Lopez. So we got some pretty good players. We got some players who can make a difference on his team, who can, I guess, help contribute into the future. And he didn't, take in mind, he didn't have his own scouts for this draft. He was stuck with the Houston Texans' old scouts. It's some rule or something in the NFL where a first-year GM or something like that can't bring his own scouts over until the year following or something like that. I'm not really exactly sure, but something similar. So he didn't have his scouts this year, but next year he will. So if he got some what seems to be solid picks this year without his scouts, imagine next year when he has his scouts. So and then the Caserio made some pretty quality free agent signings. Sure, he didn't sign like any, I guess, superstars to like long-term deals or anything like that, but he got some players who can for sure come in here and make a difference. And one thing that I really admire, a lot of these guys that we signed, they're probably not going to be re-signed. They're just here, I guess, for competitiveness, to come in here, play for a year, show out. Then next year they could get a bag, maybe either here in Houston or somewhere else, something like that. But what I really like is guys like maybe Philip Lindsay, Desmond King, players like that. Say a team really needs a running back or a slot cornerback by the trade deadline next year. He could trade him, maybe Desmond King for like a third, Philip Lindsay like for a third, something like that. So these cheap, quality free agent signings that he made, he could flip them for picks. And some of them, they could get compensatory picks after this offseason. Like if other teams sign them next year, we could get some comp picks for them. So, I mean, he made a really good, sure, we signed like 1,000 linebackers pretty much, but these linebackers, they're signed by other teams to long enough deals, and if they're healthy or whatever, we could get comp picks for them. Same thing with the running backs, Mark Ingram. He's probably gonna, I'm not sure if he's going to be signed next year. He's getting on the other side. But Philip Lindsay, he could be done like that. Just different players like that. So Nick Caserio did a really good thing in free agency by getting players and signing players who could contribute to that in a cause and in a way. And another very good, I guess, thing to look forward to for the future is the trade of Deshaun Watson. Sure, we don't want it to happen. Maybe some of us do. But it's pretty much inevitable at this point. Maybe it won't happen this offseason. Maybe it'll happen next offseason. But it's eventually going to happen, in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't want to trade him because there's no trade worth Deshaun Watson. Like, you're never going to get fair value for a 25-year-old superstar MVP caliber quarterback. coming off of his best year as a pro in the NFL. There's no trade that can equal or be equivalent to that type of player. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. It's going to be inevitable. I'm guessing we get 3 first-round picks, maybe 4, maybe 2 seconds, maybe at least 1 starting player. So, I mean, that's one thing to look for the future. We're going to have a bunch of draft picks. We're going to have a very good GM who can hopefully make a do with those draft picks. We're going to get a star player, or at least hopefully a star player in the trade to help build this team around. So, I mean, after this year is going to be kind of tough in my opinion. Sure, we can maybe sneak into the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills or whoever's quarterback. Maybe we could sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. But it's going to be an overall tough year. I'm not going to say boring because I believe those offense and defense are going to be exciting with all the new players. Players like Zach Lawson, Nico Collins, Brevin Jordan. We still got Brandon Cooks. Kiki Huti's in his contract year. We still have some, I guess, pretty exciting players. It's going to be a somewhat exciting year, but not as exciting as if we had Deshaun Watson. But this next year, realistically, we're probably going to have like a top 15 pick, top 10 pick, somewhere around there. Okay, so we're going to have 1 early first-round pick with that pick. And then whether we trade Deshaun to Miami or Philadelphia or wherever, we're probably going to have at least 1 somewhat high first-round pick because Philadelphia, they're not going to be that good. Miami, I think they have one of Philadelphia's first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure, but they have a first-round pick that's not theirs, so that's probably going to be pretty high, at least hopefully in the top 10, top 15-ish. So we could potentially end up with 2 or 3 first-round picks next season that could be in the top 15, or at the worst, at the least, top 20. So that's pretty good. 3 first-round picks, so we could get 3 top 20 players next year in the NFL draft, or maybe in the draft following. And then not to mention with the star player we get from the trade, imagine Davis Mills ends up being a competent, sort of average NFL starting quarterback. We won't have to worry about a quarterback next year in the draft. Maybe we still draft one just to ensure we have the guy, the franchise quarterback, but maybe we don't. Maybe we end up drafting a guy like Stingley from LSU, or that Oregon defensive end who could be a cornerstone in this D-line. There's many different options that we can do in the draft to get better, to get younger, to build to build a position up. Offensive line, we look pretty good. We got a superstar, or what seems to be a future superstar right tackle, who's still pretty young. I believe he's like 23, 24. Titus Howard, not Titus Howard. Laramie Tunsil is still fairly young. I think he's like 26, 27, somewhere in that range. So realistically, he probably has like 7 to 8 more years of being an elite left tackle. Max Sharping, he's okay. Hopefully can turn into a pretty good left guard. I'm not going to say star or superstar because I don't think that's going to happen. But I think he could be for sure an average left guard. Let's hope that happens. But the only positions that we need help in for the future, right guard and center. So the offensive line is pretty much built up. Running back room, all these guys are on 1-year deals. Maybe we resign Phillip Lindsay, something like that. The wide receiver room looks pretty solid. We got Brandon Cooks. I think he's like 27, maybe going to hit 28 this year. I believe he has 2 more years on his contract, so we could have him under contract for 2 more years, or we could cut him and create more cap. We got Kiki QT, who's in his contract year, as I said. We can probably re-sign him very cheap, so we could have a good, solid cornerstone slot receiver. We got, obviously, Nico Collins. We got some solid undrafted free agents, wide receivers. In the tight end room, we got Brevin Jordan, Farrell Brown, Ryan Izzo. In the D-line room, we got Shaq Lawson, Malik Collins, Ross Blacklock, Jonathan Grenard, Jacob Martin, in the linebacker room, we got Zach Cunningham, I forgot his name. I think it's like Jay Adams or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Kevin Pierre-Louis. Kirksey is kind of older, on the older side. I think he's like almost 30 or is 30. So I'm not going to say young. In the cornerback room, we got Desmond King. I'm hoping he has a good year and we can re-sign him. He could be our cornerstone, I guess, cornerback. He's going to be like our primarily slot cornerback. In the safety room, we got a young Justin Reed. I believe he's like 24. Lonnie Johnson. So this team is full of potential future, not superstars, but future average to star players. Like, this team isn't as bad as it looks, on paper at least. Sure, last year, whatever, we went 4-12 with Deshaun Watson, pretty much the same guys. We added a pretty much, I think, like 30 guys. We did pretty much a whole roster overhaul. But I mean, these guys, they're gonna be pretty good. There's nothing to like, we have players who are gonna contribute this next season. And the future's looking bright. All the draft picks, as I said, all the players that I said, they're going to help contribute to the future. And then, as I said, with Nick Caserio, I don't believe David Coley is going to be our long-term head coach. I believe he's going to be our head coach maybe for 2 years, 3 years, to get us through this Deshaun Watson phase. Like, after the trade happens, he's probably going to be here for maybe another year. And then we're going to get a new rookie head coach, maybe like a guy like Joe Brady, or maybe a guy like Pep Hamilton, or a quarterback coach right now. Something like that for the future to help, so they could choose their guys that they want in the draft, whether if we draft a quarterback or running back, something like that. So the coach can have a relationship with them. So, I mean, sure, right now, we don't look the best on paper. I mean, as I said, we look pretty good on paper, but compared to other teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the 49ers, seems like that we don't look the best compared to them, but we're not the worst. Like, we have some pretty solid players, and I'm hoping what I said is stands coming through the next season. I hope we can get even more draft picks from these free agents that we got, from whether it's comp picks or trades or whatever. But yeah, as I've been saying, this future is very bright. Right now, it looks like we're going to be in a dark phase, maybe 1-2 more years. But after this trade goes through, we have all these draft picks. We're going to look pretty nice. We're going to be an attractive destination for any coaches, for future coaches that want to come, for future defensive coordinators that want to come. With whatever happens with Tim Kelly, whether he leaves next year, we're going to have a very interesting offense with all the draft picks. He could draft his own quarterback, running back, whatever it is. We look very good. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. Clutch City Entertainment out. I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.